Hi everyone, my name is Cailean Finn and I'm a creative technologist and new media artist from Waterford. And in this presentation I'm going to explore the re-emerging practice of digital gardening and how it can shape our behaviour towards consuming and sharing information online in the age of platform. So I'll cover my research into the practice, look at it from a historical context and the characters which define it. Then I'll look at how it's influenced my practice as a media artist and ultimately my approach towards web technologies. I also touched on some tools that I'm currently working with and projects that I'm working on. So a bit of background, in 2021 I graduated with my MA from the University of Limerick in art technology, and over the course of the year I developed a bunch of works which I want to be able to showcase online through a personal website. But at this point my process and how I document and archive my work was poor to say the least. I just had no system in place to effectively do so. And so again, this led to poor documentation and frustration on my end when it came to this process. And so when I wanted to return to some research or work I've done in the past, most time was spent on retracing my steps and figuring out how I got to this conclusion in the first place. And I felt like this was a major problem for me, and it's still something I'm working on figuring out today. And I think especially as a creative technologist working on various projects which use different tools and technologies, it's hard to keep track sometimes, as my workflow is just quite chaotic and deconstructive. But in late 2022, I began working on a project titled Undefined Panorama with Yang Ahau, Nora Muraku, and Manuel Berger. And this was an extension of Yang Ahau's previous works, which looked at the embedded relations within socio-political infrastructures and systems. And so for this project, I ended up working as a creative technologist, as a web developer, as Yang Ahau was curious to see how web technologies could be leveraged to create an interface where the user can move between scales on a global micro and macro level. And so we ended up using force-directed graph network for the front end, which was powered by D3.js. This was paired with Google Sheets as our back end, and even though it was quite clunky at times, it allowed us to collaboratively work on expanding the network, creating new nodes and new relationships, and it was very accessible for anyone not used to using content management systems or even web technologies in general. But while developing this project, it drastically changed my perspective on what a website could be, and I want to incorporate web technologies more into my practice moving forward. And I suppose the main characteristic about this website that really stood out to me was in its structure. It was non-linear, where users had to seek their own streams and narratives in their exploration of various nodes and systems, or nodes and relationships attached to them, where they had to derive their own meaning and unique experience from this. And so after finishing this project, I wanted to revisit my own personal website and emulate the same type of behavior or experience with a structure in place which I could develop over time. So at this point I ended up stumbling across the practice of digital gardening, which was exactly what I was looking for. Essentially, digital gardening is a method adopted in the process of creating a topology or system for collecting and sharing information or knowledge online. And at a surface level, it's about creating spaces or environments that offer a method to present information within a dynamically interconnected space which possesses a structure in place to facilitate gradual growth. And this is really nothing new and generally talked about in reference to technologies such as hypertext and platforms like Wikipedia. In the context of hypertext and its connection with the term gardening, its origins can be found in a book by George Borge called The Garden of Forking Paths, which has been cited by many new media scholars as inspiration for hypertext fiction. And in 1987, Stuart Maltrops created a hypertextual version of the novel titled Victoria Garden, and this is one of the earliest examples of hypertext novels, which was followed closely by Afternoon a Story by Michael Joyce in 1990, and Shelley Jackson's Patchwork Girl in 1995. But for me, hypertext also shares parallels with text-based adventure games such as Zork, where through a nonlinear world, the player is given the freedom to explore it in whatever order they wish. In spirit, Zork was an early hypertext novel, though it didn't utilize the conventional link we all know today. Following on for this, I came across Maggie Appleton, who's a writer that's written extensively about the history and practice of digital gardening. Appleton dates the first use of the term garden in connection to hypertext to an essay by Mark Bernstein in 1998 titled The Hypertext Garden. And so this is more of a manifesto on the user experience and content organization rather than Bernstein's own personal knowledge system. So he talks about the garden as a web as topology in space, where it facilitates a structure where it cannot collapse into a single set of relations, and this is what he means when he talks about the web as space and topology. And so every walk through this garden creates new paths, new meanings, and when we add things to the garden, we add them in a way that allows for many futures or unpredictable relationships to emerge, while also embracing digital eccentricity and exploratory experiences in the process. And so early web adopters were fascinated with this idea as the web of space, a chaotic ticket tended to by what we know now as wiki agents such as gardeners and gnomes. But more recently, in 2015, Michael Caulfield delivered a keynote titled The Garden and the Stream, Techno-Pastoral, which was later turned into a piece of electronic literature. And so this text is known for laying the foundations and current understanding of the term digital gardening. Again, like the hypertext gardening, Caulfield talks about the web as space, attempting to separate itself from the characteristics and behaviours attributed to the content produced as a byproduct of the chronological sort era, killing this once diverse and idiosyncratic landscape of the web. And so the text clearly lays out the key characteristics inherent to the practice and how it can be used to think differently about our online behaviours towards information, arguing that the garden helps us move away from time-bound streams and into contextual knowledge spaces. And I suppose this is especially important in the era of social media, as he positions gardening as a counterbalance to the temporal immediacy of the timeline. I suppose he also talks about, obviously, the web as space, where it's organised around contextual relationships, a space that is constantly evolving, changing, and growing in a dynamically interlinked space, resulting in emergent relationships, and which is also designed alongside you, or designed to evolve alongside you. And by design, gardens are imperfect, where nothing is ever fully complete, sitting in the middle between chaos and cultivation, and it's an approach that really contrasts the usual mindset towards publishing content online. And it's about a practice of sharing ideas which are not fully formed, and to be willing to make mistakes and learn from them in public. It also acts as a personal playground. It's a place to experiment, fail, and learn, and not only experimenting with textual content, but this idea of polyculture, experimenting with the native languages of the web, as well as other hypermedia, such as sound, text, code. And so it's a chance to really question and establish the norms of what a personal website actually is. And for me, I think the most important aspect or characteristic of digital gardening is it's about claiming a small patch of the web for yourself, which you fully own and control. And it shouldn't live in the cloud or inside wall gardens, as none of these sites are made for you to really gradually develop and build a knowledge space over time. And so it helps you plan for the long term. As well as it being open source, where others can learn from your implementation and design and build on top of that, sharing technical knowledge along the way. And so this text inspired me to end up creating my own quite rushed digital garden that weekend using Hugo, which is a framework for building static websites using HTML, templates, and Markdown. And so it's a great tool for anyone who has limited experience working with code, as you're generally just working or interacting with the HTML templates as well as the Markdown. And so I ended up creating my own system where each article would be defined by a certain state, where each emoji represents how complete an article was, with tags defining topics, keywords they relate to, which you then could search by. In the end, like most systems I've tried in the past, I just felt I was quite limited in what I could do with this framework, so I shelved it for a while until I found something more suitable. At the same time, I came across Low Tech Magazine. And so they're a magazine or an online website, probably best known for their website, which is powered by a 50-watt solar panel. And so this website displays a forecast for the upcoming days, so you can plan your visits accordingly, as it has significant downtime depending on the time of year or weather forecast. But more broadly, their articles underscore the potential of past and often forgotten about technologies and how they can inform more sustainable practices, repurposing older but more robust technologies to function in a world where they've almost become obsolete. So this really got me interested in, how did they actually build their website, which runs on solar. And so I ended up picking up their book, How to Build a Low-Tech Internet, and the text not only goes into the tools and the creation of the sites, but went into the sustainable approach when it came to all aspects. So decoupling from the cloud, image compression algorithms, and the benefits of static site generation over dynamic. And I really grounded, I suppose, web technologies in reality by keeping it in sync with this day and night cycle. And so reading this book really shifted my outlook on how these technologies function entirely, and I really drilled in the idea that the network is physical. And so I became interested in the web as infrastructure and how I could begin to finally own my own digital garden, and how I could decouple myself from these walled gardens I've been a part of for so long. So late last year, I ended up building my own home server as a response to this. It sits in my home in Waterford, primarily used for hosting my remote storage system, as well as some personal websites and media servers such as my own GitHub repository. I suppose going down the rabbit hole of self-hosted servers can be quite overwhelming, especially when picking the optimal components for your build or energy efficiency, but in reality, you don't need to invest that much to begin with. Use what you can, an old laptop or computer, reuse and repurpose as much as you can. Again, I think this was a great exercise to understand the basics behind networking, how I can truly cultivate a patch of my own on the internet, a place where I'm free to experiment without consequences, besides fending off the occasional bot trying to break down my poorly constructed walls. After this, I visited my website to create my own digital garden, where I can document and showcase my finished works, as well as space to archive early research and experiments. For this site, I developed my own parser in Python, which converts Markdown to HTML, similar to what Hugo does, as well as automating some image compression techniques, which gives me the freedom to not have to refactor code when writing a piece of text and update it whenever I wish. And I really want my own website to be an experimental playground where the user can explore the content and their relationships independently. But I also use the site to apply for applications and open calls, so I'm constantly trying to strike a balance between it being too chaotic or too linear. And it's still a work in progress, but the structure for a digital garden is there, so I hope to develop that slowly over time. Lastly, I'm a member of conceptual, which is a collective of artists working on building a community for new media art in Ireland. And so we host the occasional meetups as well as run a bi-weekly newsletter. And so over the past few months, we've been talking about redeveloping our website to be more than just a landing page, but a place where we can show what we've done over the past year since we started this effort. Initially, I really wanted to incorporate the practice of digital gardening in some capacity in the creation of this website, but I really wasn't sure how we could do this collaboratively. But after some time, I thought it might be an interesting idea to turn the conceptual website into a wiki itself. So for our new website, we are currently using MediaWiki, which is a free open source wiki software which is used to power thousands of Wikipedia pages. And so that acts as the backend for our website. And so this idea was inspired by implementation done by the Netherlands organization Hackers and Designers, which is around 7 years ago, where they use Semantic Wiki, which is an add-on for MediaWiki, where you're able to organize and fetch content using an API. So it's essentially an open source content management system. I suppose we decided to do this as it could transform our website into a co-publishing platform and use it as a tool to map out what is happening in Ireland in the field of new media or digital art and really connect the community. Currently, the server is running on a Raspberry Pi stuffed under my couch, but after some initial tests, it works great, and we hope to open up the platform slowly over the course of this year. In conclusion, digital gardening offers a powerful framework for rethinking a relationship with digital technologies. It allows us to reclaim control and foster creativity and build more meaningful and sustainable digital spaces, which can lead to more vibrant and diverse digital ecosystem outside of just walled gardens. And I suppose in the early days of the internet, which I narrowly missed, the web was a decentralized space where individuals had the freedom to create, share, and connect without constraints to centralized platforms. And I suppose over time, it shifted to towards a more corporate-controlled environment with authoritative platforms. But by adopting practice like digital gardening, we can reclaim some of that original autonomy we once had. And I suppose this involves not only creating and curating your own content, but also understanding and managing the underlying infrastructure. It's about taking back control from the walled gardens of major tech companies and fostering a more open, diverse, and user-driven web. And for me, I think the conceptual wiki really brings together a lot of these core aspects of what makes digital gardening great, and we hope this can flourish over the course of the year. But I hope this presentation has inspired you maybe to explore digital gardening in your own practice and to think differently about how we consume and share information online. So thank you for your attention. I look forward to any questions you may have.